Signs of an incompatible couple. Not everyone realizes incompatibilities in their relationships. It is normal for all of us. Sometimes 2 or 3 years go by before a couple really realizes that they may not exactly be aligned, that they may not exactly be on the same page on their core values, on their worldviews, and other important things. Hi, my name is Jyotika Bedi. I'm the founder of Happiness is Love. The first question that comes to mind is, why does it take so long for us to recognize these inconsistencies, these incompatibilities in the first place? I was very curious to know. The plain truth is, finding a partner who would actually want to commit to you these days is very, very hard. Let's put it out there. It's very easy and even common for people to sometimes ignore the red flags, ignore the negatives in their partners at the initial stages. Then it gets even harder to end things in the long run. Haven't you experienced this? Even 1 year is relatively a short time to be with a person, and you can still choose to ignore those certain red flags at that point, because when we are in love, and that's why they say love is blind, at this point, breaking up is a bit harder. No one wants to be in that position because you've always invested some time and energy. It's better to avoid things like this instead of having to deal with the consequences later on. As a psychologist, I have few points that I'd like to share with you. Number one, you don't understand each other's sense of humor is a red flag. Humor is something that should be valued in any relationship. No one wants a humorless partner or a person. Also, no one wants to have a partner who doesn't really understand their jokes. I've been married for more than 2 decades, and our biggest clue is our sense of humor. We can all agree that laughing at your own jokes alone is no fun. Not understanding, however, each other's jokes is one of the first indications that you're not comfortable. You might get offended or you might get defensive if your partner is cracking a joke which they think is funny. It could also mean you don't understand each other's thinking patterns. This is more frequent in couples who are from different age groups. This is something that I have observed in my counseling, in my coaching practices, working for almost 2 decades now. For example, if you're dating someone 10 years older than you, let's say for example, or more, your partner could make politically incorrect jokes that would be funny if this were the 90s. Instead of amusing you, it would definitely make you irritated or angry. Doesn't this happen? Your partner's jokes could also help you understand what kind of a person they truly are at their core and what their interests are. If, for example, your partner is an old soul and loves all the oldies from movie classics to jazz, his or her jokes may include references from those classics. If you don't share these interests, you won't really understand their jokes, which brings you back to the fact that you don't share common interests. So, I want you to look out for this. Humor is very, very important glue for all of us to look out to. Number two, you don't have similar sex drives. I'm coaching a lot of couples today. Even after having married 21 years, some people can't imagine going a day without sex, while some can't stand the thought of having sex for months. It's also important to note that sex drives aren't gender biased. I want to put this out there. I think the world has come to this realization that women can pretty much have, or they have, high sex drives too, and men can have really low ones too. So no matter how you try to ignore it, it's going to become a real problem at some point. Sex is a major glue. It's a major tool for connection in our relationships. Sexual intimacy is very, very crucial. If one person is constantly feeling sexually deprived, the relationship will most definitely suffer. The same applies if one person feels too pressured. So if you have a high sex drive, try to first find a partner who's on the same level with you in terms of desires, and it's absolutely okay to have these conversations before you decide to commit to a relationship. Number 3, you have very different ambitions, and I've noticed in my coaching practices, this is a big point of disconnect. The best time to ask about each other's visions and dreams and desires for the future is on your first date. This means as early as possible. If you like his goals aren't headed in the same direction as yours and vice versa, please don't try to act like nothing is wrong. You two will never last if you have mismatched expectations of the future. My husband and I have been married 21 years, and for us, one glue that we have was our same vision for our collective future. Unless you don't plan to be in a lasting relationship with this person, it is very, very crucial that your goals, your future self, what does it look like and feels like, are aligned. Most people hold back from asking these pertinent questions because they're too afraid of scaring the date away. Does this not happen? Having a partner whose dreams are completely disjointed from yours will inevitably end up badly. So the earlier you find out, isn't it better than spending so much time, energy, effort? Number 4, you have very different attachment styles. You've got to know and own your own attachment style. When you do, it would be easier to find a partner who has the same attachment style as yours. Some people like having, I don't like labels, but let's say a clingy partner. They don't mind sharing bodily contact with them as often as possible. They're okay with the other person being too needy or overly dependent on them. No judgment on anyone. On the other hand, some just can't stand it. They feel it's obsessive behavior and they just don't have the tolerance for it. These two categories of people can never be together. People who are popularly termed as clingy or needy or too desperate usually fall under the anxious or anxious avoidant category, while the people who prefer to bypass intimacy are under the avoidant category. If you're anxious, or let's say you are anxious avoidant, there's no need to pretend to be indifferent about physical touch, about physical intimacy, about physical contact. Trust me, you don't want to play the game of cat and mouse. It gets very, very, very frustrating over time. So make sure that you know and you own your own attachment style first, and then get to know the other person's. Number 5, be mindful if there is an extreme passion at the beginning. Let me explain what I mean. Most people think that having that intense spark when you first meet a person is a great thing, or that's the only thing that's needed. This isn't always the case. In fact, it's not really advised. Most of the times, an immediate, intense spark is not actually a good indicator of love, long-lasting or enduring love, or desire, or even compatibility. Rather, it could just be an indicator of some suppressed insecurities or even fears. This occurrence is also known as limerence. Limerence. It's that intense and obsessive feeling you get when you meet someone new. It often takes over you. It often is mistaken for a desire and hardly ever ends well. Most couples who experience limerence at the initial stages end up with a very rude and harsh awakening a few months later when the true reality hits them hard. Number 6, no respect for individual interests. A couple does not necessarily have to like all the same things. My husband and I are polar opposites, but we have a lot of similarities. In fact, most successful couples have varying interests. My husband loves hiking. I like playing the drums. I like dancing. He likes yoga. There are people who like to go out and party and be the life of the party, and there are people like me who just like to be in pajamas all day and not get out and party at all. Everyone has a unique interest or hobbies. There's no right or wrong, good or bad, better or worse. So one person may prefer to go to, let's say, an art gallery during their free time, while the other person prefers to go for movies. While each person couldn't care less about the other person's interests, it's very possible to respect them nonetheless. If your boyfriend, for example, often makes you feel bad or inferior just because you do not share the same interests as his, that's a major red flag. That's a major sign that you both are a misfit. This is also true if they make fun of your interests and put you down instead of respecting your interests. Respect is non-negotiable. Number 7, the same mistakes keep repeating themselves. Mistakes are inevitable in any relationships. We're all human, aren't we? So you can't expect less. However, recurring mistakes in adult relationships are more than just mistakes. They're a result of something deeper. First of all, it depends on what you consider as a mistake. Your version of a mistake may, for instance, simply be something your partner does that hurts you. This recurring attitude may just be who your partner truly is. That's why it keeps repeating itself over and over again. He or she probably isn't conscious, isn't self-aware of when he or she is doing these things because it's a part of who they truly are. This, my dear, is a sign that you're just not compatible. So no matter how many times you fight and you make up, that mistake is going to keep showing up and it's going to make your life very, very hard. Next, number 8, he or she never seems interested in speaking with you and sharing their true feelings, their honest feelings. In most incompatible relationships, the couples find it hard to sit down and have a tough conversation. It's either one party or both find the other boring. Not because they actually are, but because they're not interested in each other's personal life. This is a big red flag. This is a huge sign. When you're with your, let's say, perfect match, you'll be genuinely interested in their lives, what they do, what their job looks like, who are their friends, etc. Even the mundane everyday activities in their lives need to be a concern to you. You'd want to hear how their day went, or how did their new yoga class went, or if they met somebody interesting, how was that meeting? You'd be invested, won't you, in their lives and in their progress. On the other hand, in some incompatible relationships, what really happens is that one person hardly cares about the affairs of the others, or both couples are just indifferent about the other's lives. This is not because they don't make an effort, they just can't seem to care deeply. Number 9, you're always criticizing and arguing. Every couple argues once in a while. It's not everything you'd agree on 100% of the time. I just had an argument with my husband this morning. However, there's a limit to it. If every conversation you have turns into an ugly argument, it's all about winning from the other person, putting the other person down. It's like almost like a competition. Then there's a problem with your communication. There's a problem in your relationship. The only reason some couples are still together is sometimes because of the sex. Sometimes even when all they do is just argue all the time. Some couples I've noticed in my coaching practices stick together just because they have a healthy bedroom life. If this is what your relationship has really been reduced to, then I want to tell you, my friend, you're definitely in an incompatible relationship and it's time to do some work. It's time to seek help. Number 10, there are problems in the bedroom. It's possible for your sex life to be excellent, even when you're a terrible match. This happens all the time. However, sometimes your incompatibilities will reflect even in the bedroom. There's a difference between affection and having an uncontrollable drive. Just because you love each other's physical characteristics doesn't mean that you necessarily understand this person at all. Intercourse can be purely physical and have nothing to do with love or compatibility. If you do notice you're having this kind of sex, then it's an early indication of your incompatibilities. Intercourse shouldn't just be about getting to a climax. It should be more of the many expressions of your love, your affection for your partner. If these expressions don't exist, it may be impossible to build a happy life together. Number 11, you can't be yourself when you are with them. You walk on eggshells. I'm currently coaching a couple and both of them are walking on eggshells. If you can't be yourself around your partner, then you're looking at a major red flag here. These are signs that you cannot not notice. The very essence of being with someone is the experience or experiencing them in their entirety. You can't do this if you both aren't being your true selves, if you're not being authentic in your relationships. And if you're always scared to speak up and show your emotions. There are couples who behave differently. So they feel the need to pretend or hold back when they're together. They wear masks, especially socially. If this is you, it means you don't trust your partner to truly love every aspect of you. If you hear a song you like over the radio and you start to sing along, then he or she makes you feel stupid for it, then you're probably not compatible. Number 12, there's very little trust and loads of jealousy. If you and your partner are excessively jealous, you definitely do not trust each other easily. This is a problem. This will definitely impact your freedom and your partner's freedom. It's not fun being in a relationship where you're excessively jealous. You'd start to feel limited, controlled, caged. You can't talk to who you want to. You can't go out when you want to. That's not a life you want to sign up for. If he or she truly loves you, he or she will let you have your freedom. And vice versa. Jealousy only breeds more contempt. Number 13, the relationship is just plain boring. When you're in love with someone, most moments with them seem satisfying. It's not every second or every micro moment that you have these exciting moments of joyfulness or feelings of togetherness. Sometimes you just sit silently enjoying each other's company, having a cup of tea or coffee, reading your own books or listening to music. However, when you're not compatible with your partner, the mundane, everyday micro moments, when you aren't going out on exciting dates, will seem excruciatingly boring for you. Another thing you'll notice is that your relationship has become too routine and too monotonous. Not everyone hates routines. Some couples, including me, love the stability and security that comes with being in the routine, in the rut. However, being with a partner who doesn't prefer this, or being the partner who doesn't really care or can be very uncomfortable, is something that can be difficult for you and your partner. Number 14, when you're hardly ever on the same page, it's possible for the two people in the relationship to be on different planets. In terms of their levels of involvement, their perceptions, and how much effort they put in, how much they invest in this relationship, they are on completely different pages. One party may be willing to take the responsibility to take the next level, while the other party freaks out at the mere thought of any kind of commitment. This is quite damaging to the relationship. Some couples may both want to move things to the next level, but they have different ideas on what they really want. Let me give you an example for you to understand. For example, one person wants to be married with kids, while the other person's ultimate goal is to focus on their career. There's a little bit of any relationship that requires you to find the middle ground. It's normal to want your partner all to yourself, and for what they want all the time. However, when there's too much jealousy, or it shows a lack of trust, and when you're not on the same page with your partner in general sense, you tend to organically begin to mistrust them, and you're not then able to think of a win-win solution. You're not able to push yourself to find the middle ground. A lack of trust can then be an indicator that you're incompatible with your partner. Share an apartment with a partner and own a plant or pet together. If you're both moving at different paces, for example, you're not likely to meet at the same point because you're too disconnected and you're not willing to make changes to reach the middle ground. 15th, intellectually, you're widely different. There's too much of a gap. If you can't connect with your partner on the mental level, it could be a sign of incompatibility. What is marriage? Marriage is really meeting of the minds. There's no way a high school graduate and a postgraduate degree holder would be able to connect at the same level of intellect. At some point, there will be some kind of rift in the communication and constant explaining because of this wide gap in the knowledge of the former. If you and your partner are too intellectually different from each other, then you're definitely incompatible. The goal is to reach the middle ground. At the initial stages of your relationship, these things may be easy to overlook, but at the same point, it is going to be a major problem later on. Your thinking processes, your thinking patterns, and even professional lives would be significantly different. Therefore, you will struggle to communicate, and this will eat your relationship. This does not, however, mean that every relationship has to consist of two people who are at the same academic or intellectual level. On rare occasions, I've also noticed two people from very, very different fields of life and different, let's say, academic interests or different academic levels can be together. They are together and they're happy together. As long as you're able to have meaningful and thoughtful, deep conversation, you are good to go. Because marriage or relationships are the perfect place for self-discovery and growth. Number 16, the love and care is just gone. It's true that a relationship is not all about the sparks, about chemistry or the butterflies in your stomach. But at the same time, your heart should still beat a little faster every time you see your partner. My heart has small smileys every time I see my husband, and I smile and I blow kisses at him. Your mood should light up when you meet with someone you like, not look away when you see your partner. So if you realize after some time that you're not excited to see your partner anymore, there is definitely something wrong. And I've also noticed that most people stick around in loveless relationships and loveless marriages because it's just convenient. They rather stay in the relationship than risk experiencing the changes and risks involved with being single, for instance. The spark does not make up the entire relationship, but it is important and it needs work. Number 17, your core values are too different. This definitely goes without saying. People's beliefs and core beliefs really shape their character, really shapes their personality. If you can hardly agree and are not on the same page when it comes to your core values, big red flag. This includes financial values, moral values, political values, religious values. And if your philosophy is spend now, life is short, you're definitely not going to survive a relationship with someone whose values dictate that they save for the rainy day. Or if you believe that intercourse should only be confined to the boundaries of a committed relationship, while your partner has a core belief that casual sex is a necessity or is necessary for a healthy life, then you're both going to have friction at some point in time. You and your partner should have the same or similar values? Most of the times. If not, it would be impossible to build a family together or build each other or your relationship. Number 18, if you have different ideas of what rest and relaxation looks like and feels like, that's a problem. Everyone has something unique they prefer to do after a long day of hard work. I just like to sit in silence. Some prefer the indoors while others prefer the sun on their faces. It's different for everyone. There is no right or wrong, good or bad. Relaxation means something different to different people. For some couples that I'm coaching, some may think of painting. Others think of lazing about in front of their screen time. For some, it could be gaming. If you like to sit indoors with, let's say, a cup of tea and a good book, or listen to music, and your partner prefers to sunbathe or at the beach, you too may have a little bit of disconnect. This, however, does not mean that you have to like all of the same activities. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm trying to suggest is what it simply means is that you should have similar ideas of what activities are relaxing to you and your partner. If one party constantly feels confined, pulled down by the other because they spend lots of time indoors and expect you to do the same, it could bring up problems in the long run. It's very important to respect each other's ideas of relaxation and rest. Next, your methods of expression are way too different. It's true that women are generally able to express their feelings a little more than men do. However, despite our genders, everyone has a unique way of expressing their feelings, and it doesn't always have to be verbal. So, dating a non-native speaker is quite possible. Some people are very, very, very open about their feelings and lack the ability to hide them. I'm guilty of this. They practically wear their hearts on their sleeves. You know that person. Maybe you are this person. Meanwhile, some others are a little more stoic and view the open expression maybe as a weakness. You don't have to use the same communication style to express your true and honest feelings. But if you're on complete opposite spectrums, then you probably aren't a good match. The goal really is to find the middle ground, the happy ground. Next, you have no shared interests. Even if you both have individual hobbies and interests, you should have at least one thing that you enjoy doing as a couple. My husband and I just signed up for Latin dancing classes and we are loving it. While we have our different interests, we have this one interest that we do together. We explore new hobbies together so that we have this common activity that helps build our bond. And it's a beautiful way of dating each other and spending time with each other and dancing our way. If you don't both enjoy your time together, one party will always feel like they're giving away a part of themselves to be with the other. If you can't seem to overcome your differences and find a common interest, then you're definitely not compatible. Next, 21st point. Significant differences in the way you see life. Some people view life from half glass full perspective, while others are a bit more skeptical and pessimistic in their approach. You know that person, don't you? Maybe you are that person. But being on polar extremes of this spectrum could be a problem for the both of you, because again, you're at the extreme ends. You don't always have to see things from the same lens, from the same perspective. In fact, it's best to have an optimistic partner by your side when things are gloomy, when things are not so sunny and bright. However, if you're a person who wakes up every morning hopeful and ready for the day ahead, you don't want a partner who wakes up gloomy, who wakes up complaining, who wakes up grumbling. You will get very frustrated with just being with that person. If this is a picture of your relationship, you may have to plan maybe your goodbye. Out of all these points that I've shared with you, which one resonates the most with you? And if you are struggling, we at Happiness is Love are here for you because we truly care and we are here to help you through your relationship difficulties. Because modern relationships are really in a state of crisis, and we believe it's time to help each other, to support each other, to build ourselves, to build each other, to build better bonds, because that's the only way for a better, brighter tomorrow. Stay tuned for more. Keep smiling, keep shining, keep growing.